We agree that art is the truest form of spellcraft, that expressing oneself beautifully is the true purpose of magic, but we disagree on method. Some of us hone our technique over years of practice, others of us scream out a pent-up emotion. Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore. I am Ricky, and this is my withering co-host, Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hi guys, it's me, Joe. I'm not a racerhead.
Ha! So, we're talking about the Prismari College this time around. And so, like last time, I'm going to just kind of give you guys like a brief rundown of like what they are about, describe some of the different mages that work in the Prismari, and we'll get eventually to the students and faculty of the Prismari College. So, starting off, their whole deal is making masterpieces. They're the art school, basically. They're all about making giant sculptures, giant paintings, literally just making natural disasters that look nice.
Yeah.
They're the elementalists. They're the ones that'll use fire, ice, water, wind, earth, stone, lightning, heat, cold, snow, tornadoes, earthquakes. Because apparently earthquake is a kind of element, according to this list. The point
Have you
is,
never played Pokemon Red?
the whole point is they use this mixed medium kind of thing to be able to use that. So like you could have a Prismari student who uses you could say like a snowstorm, and then it's surrounded by an orb of wind. It like just is constantly swirling and keeping the snow moving around inside of it. That kind of thing. That would be like a Prismari student's like work, their art. Now we've talked a lot about elementals, and so that's why that's similar to how the Silver Quill had inklings. The Prismari, have elementals, and they're literally they're just these pieces of art that look like animals. They look like a variety of creatures, and their whole idea is that they're just a combination of ice and lava, or water and rock and stuff like that. And they're like, if you look at a magma opus, that kind of thing, it's just this beautiful giant elemental fire ice thing. Now, as you've said, we have the two different sides. We have the blue mages, which of course would be elementalists. You have cloud conjurers, which obviously is pretty self-explanatory. Cloud conjurers, mist mages, zephyrists, sky brushers, vortex virtuosos, water binders, ice sculptors, hue splashers. They're all obviously using air, water, and stuff like that. I do like the idea of the hue splasher, which is basically like colorful water go. And it's technically not ink. It's not an inkling deal, which I think is interesting, that you have ink-based elementals that are considered inklings, and you have an ink-based magic, but it's not black ink or white ink, so it's technically a different thing altogether.
Basically using watercolor.
Yeah, exactly. It's watercolor, which I guess isn't ink, so that's a good point, Joe. Excellent point. Then you have aesthemancers, basically aesthetic mancers, compositionists, and their whole idea is making like abstract beauty and figuring out ways to like bring that out in their work. You have splendor diviners, vistamancers, and their whole idea is using like landscapes. So they'd be landscape artists kind of thing, which could be taken as an artist who makes landscapes or someone who uses the landscape to make their art. Then you have, of course, opus mancers and master creators, which their whole deal is making giant practical effects. And then you have the avant-gardians, which is such a brilliant name for like a specific kind of magician, like a magic class of an avant-gardian. I love that concept. It's literally just like the whole idea behind them is that their magic is focused on leaps of brilliance, conceptual leaps of brilliance. They don't actually have to make anything. They just need to come up with crazy ideas, which is pretty it's an avant-garde idea. Then of course you have the red elementalists on this: geosculptors, flame shouters, lava mavens, ember brushes, stone benders, electro visionaries, storm painters, which again, storm painter, snip.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and the whole idea is like expressing emotional truth through fire, earth, and other stuff. And then you have and then you have spectacle mages and wonder workers. Think about that. They're like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a wonder worker. Oh, okay, so you help people? No, it's more like I hurl wondrous stormy displays into the sky to amuse and distract.
Well, you could have just said no.
Yeah, so basically, you can think of a spectral mage and a wonder worker as like magicians who throw fireworks. Like they just shoot fireworks into the sky, that kind of thing. It's like, whoa, magic fireworks. Then you have heart ragers, which they like basically use fire to strengthen themselves, and muse channelers, which they use their own, they like project their inspiration into others. Rule burners, blast innovators, and their whole idea is just trying to figure out ways to subvert expectations. I didn't really mention this in the black-white episode, but just because there's red or blue does not mean that the students here don't use both colors. So that's why you'll often see things in the artwork that show both fire and water, or ice and earth being used together, stuff like that, because they're students. They have access to these variety of things. So much like how Silverco had 3 different really cool areas, there are 3 really cool areas in the Prismari campus. So their hall, it describes it as a glassed-in observation area at the top. And it's constantly just surrounded by strands of elemental energy. And they can basically use it as an inspiration for their creations. They just stand on top and they look out across the campus, and with all the magic swirling around them. I bet it'd be a pretty cool spectacle. Then you have the Opus Walk. So, Joe, you're probably familiar with art walks, right?
Yes.
And so the whole idea is that like it's just a place where you can go through and you can look at everybody's work and admire it, right? So there are hundreds of elemental creations here. Some of them are actual elementals, and then others are like just these giant masterpieces. And they just line this entire place, and so people can obviously just walk around and enjoy everything they see there. And then you have the Fury Gale, which is a super cool idea. The Fury Gale is like this area where no one's really allowed to go. What I mean by that is, imagine you were trying to make one of those, imagine you wanted to make a fireball that was inside of a ball, like a waterfall. Like there was a waterfall that was coming out of a fireball kind of thing, right? Or something. And you were trying to do a magical mere opus, and it starts to go wildly out of control to the point where it's going to hurt people if it gets out of hand, right?
Yes.
So what the professors would do, or the students would do, is they would take whatever you're working on and basically throw it into the Fury Gale, where if it was going to explode and couldn't be countered or whatever, they would just send it into the Fury Gale, and it would join the maelstrom of other spells that are there.
Fun.
It's basically a no man's land. People go in there just to have their fights so they don't have to like worry about other people coming in and interrupting them. So it's kind of a crazy idea of like you walk in and the entire like world around you is on fire, and you.
How about yours?
Yeah,
that's the way I like it, and I never get bored.
Hey now. Prismari created this place with the intent of allowing people to be creative and to have an opportunity to create a whole bunch of stuff. And you're going to see how that creation kind of takes hold right now. We're going to talk about the deans. Now, the blue dean is a djinn, right? Mm-hmm. And she does not sleep, ever. She does not need to. The djinn do not sleep on, the djinn of Arcavios at least, do not need to sleep. And so her whole deal is super, super precision. She wants everything to be, because art has various forms, and to her, the art and like the perfection, the whole blue deal, perfection, making sure everything is like exactly the way it needs to be. Because if you're just going willy-nilly throwing paint everywhere, you're going to make a mess. You're not going to make art. And so that's
just imagine her just like, okay, can you help me learn how to paint? Yeah, sure. Oh, I made it outside the lines. You're dead to me. Don't ever come to my class again. Okay.
But the thing is, the Dean of Perfection, as she is called, is very annoyed with Dean Nassari. Dean Nassari, of course, is the Efrit that they are the Dean of Expression, the Red Dean. And their whole deal is just make something big, Make something bombastic. Make something that people are going to remember. For instance, obviously the deans were at one point students of the Strixhaven campus, right? Nassari's
Did Nassari make the Fury Gale?
No, but they did make an entire earthquake. That was like
That's what you were referring to with that.
Yes, they made an earthquake as their final project.
That's insane.
And it nearly destroyed 3 campus buildings.
That makes sense.
So the fact that it was just so huge and it elicited such a strong emotional reaction, all that stuff, that was basically all it took. They became dean eventually. And their whole deal is they want to encourage students to express themselves. And they feel that if a student doesn't get to do that, then they're going to wind up not reaching their full potential. And you'll notice that like a theme among the deans is that most of them want the best for the students. They want to see them become greater than they are, which is really good for a dean. That's how a dean should be.
Wait, they don't just invade your study group every day to come up with convoluted plans?
Yeah, or wear strange costumes. Then we have Rutha Squallheart. She is a orc. And you may know orcs as being extremely passionate with their actions and their murder. So she's coming into this area, into the Prismari campus, as what would you call it? Not a prodigy. What is it? Would it be if a student has a lot of like family members that have already done it? A legacy student.
Legacy.
Yeah, and so she has a lot of pressure on her to make a masterpiece. And every time she tries to work on something, she never finishes it. She's like Professor Calamitous. And so a
half-eaten jelly donut.
She's going to have her own story that we're going to get into. And it's actually really good. I really enjoyed it. It was really well characterized. And we'll get to learn more about her. But just suffice to say, she doesn't really know where her future lies. Then we have Zaffai, the Thunder Conductor. He's a professor, obviously. And it's just, his artwork is so crazy. He's the Red-Blue commander.
Yes.
I love his design. As soon as he was like old enough to go to Strixhaven, they sent him there, thinking, okay, he's going to go and he's going to be, like he'll be good at something. We know he's really good with elementalism. He's going to play some music. He's going to play that funky music. It's going to be great. Because every time he did music, their house would get struck by cyclones or lightning or some other natural disaster, and they just kind of wanted to get rid of him. The thing is, even though he was good at being a musician, he found out he was better at something else, Joe. And you know what that was?
Thunder?
Close. It was the other part of his name. Conductor. He was a good conductor. Not just of electricity, but of orchestras. And so his whole deal is being a conductor. Like he'll and like he can only practice outdoors, because if they don't, everyone will die. Because the sky just gets filled up with these massive explosions and firestorms as the music goes, and the artwork even depicts them like they're playing their music and there's just a hurricane behind them. And they have like a very like unique design for their thing. And the whole idea says whenever you cast instant or sorcery, scry 1, if it was a 5 mana value or greater, create a 4/4 token. So if you have a big spell, if you're playing a big, like if you're hitting that big swell of the music, of the rhythm, then you get like an elemental that just jumps up out of the ether. But if it's a really big crescendo, if a mana value of 10 or greater,
how do you get to that?
What
spells have mana value 10 or greater?
X spells.
I thought X spells only counted their non-X value. Or is that different than converted mana cost now?
The mana value and converted mana cost are the same, but what matters as far as the X spells is when they're on the stack.
Okay.
When they're on the stack, it's counting the X. That's why you can disdainful stroke like really big X spells like Hydras.
Okay.
So, the whole deal, when it's at this crescendo of 10 mana, you deal 10 damage to an opponent chosen at random. So like, it's literally just like elemental whenever you hit like a really good note, and then whenever you hit the big note, someone gets struck by lightning, like hard. Then you have Ryonya, the fire dancer. And she's a human, but she loves dancing with fire. She's a dancer. It's her whole deal. And they have group projects. You can choose to work with a group or on your own, especially because it's art. So like say you were going to do an orchestra thing, it would be a group of people doing it. Or if you wanted to do an art piece, it would just be you. Her idea was to do both, by which I mean she would create tokens. She just created a whole bunch of copies of herself to work with. And that was her group project, was her and her clones, basically. What's interesting is this next one is not a student, it's not a dean. It's a project. It's an elemental octopus project. Octavia the Living Thesis, which again, these names, smashing names. Love the name Smasher.
Smasher.
This octopus was created as a project and then decided to become a resident of the campus. It says that it's incoherent, but also a very conceptual thinker. Basically, it just babbles to people and like just talks to everyone, thinking that it is true art. The Octavia believes that it is the most perfect piece of art ever made, which I think is a great idea for an elemental.
That's so cool.
The last individual we're going to talk about for today's episode is Veyran. And Veyran is an accomplished elementalist and mentor to the pledge mages. Her whole deal is that she has a lot of passion and a lot of discipline technique, and she kind of like, she's a student and she helps other students. And so like say she sees a new person and the new person is like sitting at lunch and they're alone in their red shoes and they don't really know what to do and they just look kind of like really sad puppy style. What she'll do is she'll come up to them and she'll like conjure up a tiny elemental and put it on the table and be like, look at it, and it'll like be like arf arf, and then it'll roll over and like leave a scorch mark on the table, and everything is better now because she's the voice of duality. And I mean, it's just the characterization of these cards, a lot of them only get little blurbs, but they have so much to them that I feel it's important to give them the life they deserve, I think is better to put it, because a lot of these, and for everyone, these are going to be their favorite legendary creature ever. Everyone's going to have their favorite legend, and like someone might really be into music, and Zaffai is like it represents them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or someone will see Octavia the Living Thesis and be like, I worked really hard on my thesis. I want to be able to kill people with mine. That kind of thing. I love this. I love this whole thing. Also, it's worth mentioning, Octavia has 8s everywhere. They cost 10 mana to play, but they cost 8 less if you have 8 instants or sorceries in your graveyard. They're also an 8/8, and they have Ward 8.
You have to pay 8 extra mana to target them with spells.
Yes, or it automatically gets countered. And whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, target creature gets a base power and toughness of 8/8. So they turn people into octopi. It's great. I love it. Go ahead, Joe, and take it away.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and catch you guys next time with the next college. Give us a like if you like Prismari. Give us a like if you like any colleges. And let us know what your favorite legend from Prismari is. And
why.
We'll see you guys next time. And why. No.
My favorite legend from Prismari is Silverquill, Joe. Deal with it.